Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 111 of a year of change. It dawned on me earlier on when I was just sort of getting all this stuff ready. I don't know why it struck me because we sort of did a 100 milestone, but I don't know if it's just because it's all ones, and I realized that we're at 11D1. We are almost a third of the way through, which is kind of weird because sometimes I don't feel like I've made enough progress or that we've done enough, but it's going to be a continuing thing. I know we're sort of basing this on a year, but I think that it's going to continue on after that. And I don't know, it just, for some reason, that number just sort of struck me. So, in keeping with that, we have done some stuff. We've made quite a bit of progress. We've changed a lot about ourselves and how we view ourselves, I think, and how we react to food, things like that. We've met some good people. And we've reached out and sort of started growing the community. I want to continue with that as well. I don't know half of you, half as well as I should like. And I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve. But we're going to keep on going and see where things lead from there. But today, being the end of the week, we're going to add another documentary to our little list of ranks of... I don't know where this is coming from. I'm going to stop. We're going to add another documentary to this. The one from today is actually, there are some points to it that are really, really broad. Normally we'll have something that seems to be a little more focused. We have either, it'll point to one person, or it goes to wheat, or, it'll have a very specific topic. This one doesn't. This one actually sort of is an all-encompassing thing. Sorry, slurring my words. I'm not drunk. It's okay. I think the main reason for this is actually part of a 4-part series that was on just on body image itself. And they had one on cosmetic surgery. They had one on, I think it was dysmorphic body disorder. And I can't remember what the other one was. But one of them was on obesity. And so it follows a few people. There's a woman who's going in for bariatric surgery. There's a guy who's going to a clinic for, I think he goes for 3 or 4 weeks, just to sort of start losing the weight. They touch on a lot of different things. There's one for kids that go to a specific camp that tries to promote a healthy lifestyle, things like that. So it does sort of go all over the place, but in general, it's mainly focusing on the body image part of it. And there are some things that I think are really good with it. That the kid camp, for example, it doesn't really say, well, you're too fat, so you need to do this. It really sort of puts a positive spin on it so that it's something that parents and kids can sort of get involved with a little bit more. It does put a lot of onus on the parents as well, which I think it should. I mean, kids are the way they are because of how the parents are. So, yeah, there is that link. So they do sort of look at that. They briefly touch on some of the issues that go along with either overeating or eating the wrong foods or just being fat in general. Not as much as I would like, obviously, but again, they're trying to cram a lot of information into just 1 hour. So they do sort of talk about one of the main underlying things, and I think it probably affects a lot of us, and that is the reason behind why we eat. And they do briefly talk about how they don't really go into a lot of detail on it, but it's something that we've talked about before, something that I've admitted to, and half the people that are out there are going to admit to as well, is that that food is a comfort. For whatever reason, at some point in our childhood, this is what we've latched onto as our security blanket. And although you may look at yourself and hate what you see and you just feel bad about yourself, oddly enough, the thing that brings comfort is eating, which makes it worse. And then we look at ourselves again and hate ourselves even more. And so we run to food again to just sort of dull that pain. And there's an argument there that you can say, well, it's better than booze or drugs or anything else, but it's still killing us, slowly but surely. So they do sort of go into that cycle where you hate yourself, and then you eat to make yourself feel better, and then you feel worse, and you look worse, and people make fun of you, and that makes you feel bad, so you go back to eating. So it's something that I think that obviously should really, maybe in one of the other documentaries that I go through, if I can find one, is to really sort of look into that in a little more detail. They also touch on genetics, which, again, not a big fan of that theory. That saying, I mean, I think that a lot of our behavior is learned. I mean, there is sort of that underlying pleasure center of the brain, activity that goes on when we eat something that's high in calories or high in fat, things like that, because we talked about that as well. There is something there that does get triggered. So there may be some genetic markers with people that, is much stronger with them than it is with people that are a normal weight. But when you're looking at, 2/3 of the country looking like we do, I don't think it can really be just sort of chalked up to genetics. There are a number of things that are probably, that will predispose us to things like that, and they do briefly touch on those. I'm grateful, though, that they don't sort of latch onto it and say, no, this is nobody's fault. This is purely genetics, and you can't help but being fat. Because I find that with a lot of these, as soon as we hear genetics, we go, it's not my fault. I have an excuse now. But they do bring that up as well. The only real downside to this one, and you may disagree with me, is that they do talk about, they interview a lawyer who is going for lack of a better term, equal rights for fat people. I mean, there are little things that we run into that we know. Like, we get paid less than thinner people. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit. We don't get jobs, for certain reasons. There is that prejudice against us. But it's nowhere near, I think, a level where we need to go after, fight for our rights sort of thing. It's one of those things that it's, I understand it. No, it's not right. But you know what? People are prejudiced against everybody for everything. So, it's one of those things that I feel there are better causes that you could champion. And he really seems to delve deeply into it. Including, and this is one of those things way back at the very beginning. I think like in the first 2 or 3 episodes, we discussed that we were going to just call each other fat because that's what we are. We are fat. They are fat deposits. They are fat cells. It's just, that's what we're going to be using. We sort of, in the past couple of weeks, moved on to obese because it's been, downgraded. But overall, whether it's 20 pounds or 200 pounds, or in some cases, in some of the shows that we've seen, 2,000 pounds, it's still just, we're fat. And during this interview, he referred to us as people of size, which is like saying, it's such a ridiculous fucking term. People of size is like saying, just people of skin. It's such a generic term, and it's so ridiculous to try to create a new term to make people feel better about themselves that it really got me going. And of all the things, and all this documentary, I mean, it has some good points when you're watching it. The lawyer really seemed a little bit out there. But that term really got to me because it's such a generic term. It's like saying people of age. It could mean young, it could mean old. People of size just means you are a certain size. You are either undersized, you're oversized, you're wide, you're tall, you're short. It's just shit like that gets me going because we try so hard to say something that isn't going to offend someone or is going to make them feel better about themselves. I don't want someone looking at me and saying, oh, you're someone of size. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Of course I am. I'm a person. I have size. And it's a stupid term for him to try to, I don't know if he's trying to coin it or if he's just, this is what he legitimately thinks. There we go. This is what we're going to be calling people from now on. I don't even know if he's the first person to use it. It's just the first time that I've heard it. And it just, immediately, what? People of size is just, it's fine. You know what? Call people fat. We are fat. You can call us fat. Call us bald. Call us white. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to call us, it's not a bad term saying, you know what, you're fat or you're obese. Obese sounds so bad, but it's because, I mean, we talked about this before as well. Once a term becomes commonplace, that's when it starts becoming offensive. So it really won't surprise me if we start hearing that people of size bullshit more. Because someone somewhere is going to latch onto it and go, I really like that. It doesn't make me feel bad about myself at all because it doesn't specify anything. And once again, then it doesn't make it my fault. So it's just... Anyway, I didn't intend for that to go off on a rant. It's just such a little thing. Something like that really gets to me. Just, no, don't try to sugarcoat it and put a smile on shit that doesn't need it. Or to polish a turd. There we go. That's what I should have said. Anyway, overall, though, the documentary is very interesting. And it is part of a series, so there are three others. There's 4 in total, but there are 3 others that you can go up and take a look at as well. They do sort of focus on the body image part of it. So you can, there is that relation that you get with the other people, just how they feel about themselves, whether they've gotten to a point where they're saying enough is enough, I need to take drastic measures, or if they're saying, no, I'm sort of easing into things and, can see themselves getting to a point that they don't want to get to. And I mean, there are some underlying reasons for a lot of it. But I don't find there are too many excuses that are given. So, which I agree with. We don't really have an excuse. We have reasons for it, which are fine. You can look at it. Like, for me, I can just say, you know what? I don't have a lot of self-control. I really, really, really like nachos. And that's the main reason why. It's, a lack of willpower, which we've been working on. So those are reasons behind me being fat. I don't have an excuse. I can't say, well, it's because my parents didn't love me enough. Or my puppy died when I was 6. So I don't have an excuse, and no one really does. Unless, of course, you're being force-fed. In which case, then yes, you have one. But in general, we normally don't. We have underlying reasons for it. And I think that's what people need to really focus on, is rather than, and this sort of does, but rather than looking at it and saying, well, okay, we need to just exercise and diet. There we go. I know that we've sort of focused on, eating less and doing more as sort of the very simplified reason for it. But there are underlying reasons for why we treat food the way that we do. And it's not just me, it's you, it's other people out there. We all have our own little reason for why we are the way we are. And I think if we can not necessarily fix the reason, but if you can find out, recognize what that reason is, it's going to give us a lot more leverage against it. And being able to say, no, the reason why I'm doing this is because of this. So once you're consciously aware of it, I think, for me anyway, it has helped a great deal. And for me, mine is very simple. Fairy? Yes, it's it's fairly, but very. So, fairy. Or verily. Verily, I say unto thee. My reasons are very simple. Is that I'm lazy. That's really it. I don't have anything, in my past that has caused it. I've always been a fat kid. But with mine, it's just I like eating lots and lots and lots of food that's bad for me, and I don't like doing anything. I like watching TV. I was grew up on video games, and that was my hobby of choice because I didn't have to move. I could sit and I could fiddle around with stuff. I used to read a tremendous amount before I got way back Nintendo. So it's just all my hobbies have sort of revolved around sitting and doing nothing. So it's just that's the habit. So I just need to break out of that and do more. So being able to recognize that and say, okay, I don't really have any, traumatic experience to sort of fall back on, and I don't have anything that has triggered anything. It's just being able to look at it and say, here's the reason why I've spent my entire life just eating a lot and doing little. So it has helped a great deal. And so I think that this documentary doesn't really focus on that. But I think that finding out the underlying reason behind why we react the way we do is a big step towards fixing it. And if not fixing it, at least recognizing it when it happens so that our success rate between, accepting what we're doing and resisting it as opposed to saying, fuck it, I'm going to have a cookie, then that success rate is going to rise, get higher. Rise, raise, rise. There we go. My grammar's all off. Anyway, I'm going to sort of cut this short, I guess. Not really cut this short. Oh, well, we're over 15 anyway. Yesterday was really short, but I think I talked really, really quickly. So, I want to get I know these have been fairly long as of late, so I'm going to try to condense them down. Mentioned this before, so I'm repeating myself once again. I find that as I continue on, then I'll sort of revisit things that I've talked about earlier on. So if I condense it down, get a lot more information in there, and hopefully not have everyone sitting there going, "You said this 5 minutes ago." Shut up. So, but not as short as it was yesterday. I realized yesterday when I was going through everything, I was talking really, really quickly, and I sort of am right now as well. So I might pick up the pace there. But we had a nice little rant in the middle of it, which just makes me so angry, which I'll probably dwell on for the rest of the day and grumble and complain to everybody else. But I think it's a valid complaint, and hopefully some of you share that complaint with me. If not, though, I mean, comment below. Let me know what you think. But I will put this in the playlist, so you'll be able to take a look at it if you want. And the same channel that it actually comes from, I think, has the other 3 episodes. So if you want to go in and take a look at those. I will do a little bit of a warning. I almost forgot about this. During this documentary, they do show what, to me, seems a little odd for bariatric surgery. Normally, you have just the little sticks poking into them. This one, no. They just very graphically went whoop and unzipped this woman and just dove right in. So if you're a little squeamish, you might want to avert your eyes for that because it's very surprising and it comes up on you very quickly. They just say, "She's getting prepared for surgery," which looks like this. Look, blood and guts and everything else. So it's very interesting, though, to watch. But for those of you out there that don't like a lot of that stuff, a little bit of a spoiler alert. So just keep your eye open for that. But for right now, that's it for this video. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.